Hello and welcome to ALTbrown number 6. I'm Sharky, and joining me today is Patty.
Hey.
And our guest today is Tariq Sheikh. He's a musician, goes under the name Citizen Vex, and he also has a film podcast, FilmGob. How's it going, Tariq?
It's good. It's about 11 p.m. here, so it's quite late. But you guys are kind of 6 hours behind, 5 hours.
Sure. I think it's 5 hours.
Okay.
So, anyway, I've been really excited to talk to you since, among all the different bands that were in the tacocore scene, you're probably the one or two bands that did industrial music, which I was very excited about at the time. It's like, holy crap! There's another brown guy that plays industrial music. This is awesome.
Yeah. I mean, industrial music was, a big influence because I started out with a lot of punk and grunge, but when I came across industrial, it was like, this sounds a lot of what I have in my own head. So I got into loads of bands, especially Ministry. That was like the big influence on me. Just their creative kind of output was so kind of influential on me as well.
I think that's how we actually became friends, because you added me. This was like during this MySpace days, and yeah. I think you had added me, and we were you were like, "Oh, listen to my music. Are you into what kind of music are you into?" And like you were like, "What's your top favorite bands?" And I was like, well, what obviously like Type O Negative, and then I was like Ministry, and you were like, oh my god, then you'd love my stuff, and then you send me your things, and I was like in love completely. Like definitely, I would say my top favorite, although you have about 6 compilations of music, would definitely be my top would be Haramzada. So that's like definitely one of my top. So I would say if someone was listening to your music, you're the Brown Ministry, like you're the Brown Al. If you're okay with that.
That's the best compliment I could get, really.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Prior to Rio Grande Blood, though, like prior, not after.
Aye. Oh, that's okay then.
Certainly, and that was before I learned that the dude from Killing Joke is like half brown too.
He is. I think he's Arab or something. But Killing Joke as well. It's like just over time you get into a lot of these bands, and they all share the same kind of sound or content, and it's like it's really cool. Usually a lot of bands that I used to get into, then my older brother would get into as well, even though he's been around longer than me, but even he would find out bands that he had never heard of. So I would always bring him new bands that he had no idea of.
What kind of bands would you say you were mostly influenced by growing up?
A lot of Nirvana, a lot of Ministry, even hip hop. There's loads of hip hop that I like. Ice Cube, Public Enemy. It's a lot of kind of political or like the more heavy sounding hip hop and 90s rap.
Aside from Citizen Vex, what other musical projects have you worked on?
I didn't really work on anything apart from the side project I had was disbanded, and you can listen to that on Spotify. That managed to upload it to Spotify, and it's still there. So
awesome!
You can listen to that. That's a bit more acoustic and experimental. Guitar. It's like the only kind of compilation I've played guitar on. You can check that out.
So, how was your time doing Citizen Vex? Like, because I know like you're known as being affiliated with the whole tacocore scene. How did that work? Because I know you were part of the Europe tour.
Yeah, I came across the Guardian article by Luck. Went on MySpace, I found Marvin there from Altora, and he's like, "Oh, we should collaborate," and I'm like, "Yeah, let's collaborate." So we did a couple of tracks together. Then came across all the other bands, the Caminas and Dead Butos, and it was a good, exciting, because it was the first time I saw other brown kids also making similar kind of music, and it was like really, because you grow up with a lot of white heroes and a white American or white European bands, and it's like you don't have any. Don't have those kind of brown folk that you can connect with, so it was real surprising to see all these bands from different kind of backgrounds making similar music to yourself. And so they did come over. That was in 2010. They actually came over for a UK tour, a European tour, and I only got to meet them that one day when they came to Glasgow, and that was like the one time I actually played my music live as well.
And you guys had the Taco tour in Glasgow. That's where you played.
That's right. Yeah.
Oh, cool. So, and I think they hit up a couple of places in like London, correct? I don't know all the European places that they played, but going back to the whole like Taco Court thing and finding everybody, I thought it was so cool. Like, because we were, when it was like really nitty gritty and people were still like, I didn't even know what it was, because I'm not Muslim. And I guess I'm not really considered punk, right? Because I'm a metal chick, or like I like goth and like metal and stuff, right? But it was just so cool to meet other brown kids that, although I'm not East Indian, that pejorative of the Taco Core people are like Indonesian or Pakistani, or or the people that are producing the music for Taco Core and the Taco Core soundtracks are all of majority Pakistani descent, aside from Marwan, who is from Lebanon, I believe, maybe possibly, but it seems like it was just so cool because, like, I think, like, I felt more of a connection with, like, you because we like industrial, and, like, industrial is such an acquired taste because most people, like, who even like metal, they're just like, ugh, like, you like Skinny Puppy and Ministry? Like, you know what I mean? Like, we're more of the grittier. But that was really cool. It was nice to meet, like, I guess online, and still we're all, like, pretty close, and like we're still figuring out what we're doing, and like we you shoot a message, this is what I'm working on, because currently you're working on your podcast, which is like, I guess you can tell us about that. The
podcast is like, it's just because I've been out of work since May last year, so I thought I want to use my time, do something that I've been wanting to do for a while, or I've been thinking about it, so started a Twitter account, following the kind of film-based Twitter accounts or websites, following the latest news and just getting more into the world of, film and, trailers and reviews and things like that. And about a month ago I started the YouTube channel, and so it's a different kind of way to express yourself. So in the same way I could express myself through music, here's a way of just expressing myself for my love for films. So I'm trying hard. I'm not as good as reviewing films as other people, but I'm giving it a go and just enjoying it.
Yeah, totally. I mean, as far as your love for films, are you thinking about possibly creating your own films, or have you already?
Apart from the kind of short kind of music videos I've done for Citizen Vex, but I wouldn't mind going into kind of maybe studying, camera work and filmmaking, these kind of things. So it's a possibility. I've loads of time on my hands, so it's probably something I'd love to get into.
Cool. What other outlets are you pretty much dabbling in aside from your podcast and your music, which is a lot anyway? But I mean, like, is there anything else that you're possibly maybe thinking about working on?
Like writing and painting, sketching. That's something I've kind of put to the side, and that's something else as well I'd like to get into. But it's just finding the time. It's like. Now that the YouTube channel is kind of takes up the whole weekend, basically Saturday, Sundays, just basically writing and then recording and then uploading. So that takes up the weekend, and I try to fit in going to the cinema. Try to fit in watching films. So it's that kind of thing I was really into when I was in college, like sketching, illustrating. I've got ideas for the children's books that I wanted to do, and still I've just got these kind of skeleton ideas of the structure of the stories. I've got plenty of them, so that's something I want to revisit as well.
Cool.
Actually, I was wondering, since we're all nerds, I was wondering, and you're talking about the movies nowadays, what do you think about the whole confluence of, comic book movies?
Comic book movies? I remember, watching Sam Raimi Spider-Man. I remember going to see that in the cinema, and me and my brother we grew up reading these comic books. We grew up reading the Venom storyline or Kraven's Last Hunt, and now we're actually getting to see these films on screen. Maybe not for Spider-Man, because they just kind of repeat themselves by rebooting it, but seeing X-Men Days of Future Past or Captain America Winter Soldier, I enjoy these comic book films, but I think it's going to get to the stage where some people are just like, and even myself are like, okay, let's kind of slow down and give these comic book films a rest, because I don't know how long people can keep their interest in this.
I know it's like a whole calendar of Marvel movies coming out, like one after another over the next decade or 5 years or so.
Yeah.
I was wondering.
I love the DC Batman trilogy, the Nolan trilogy. Is really good. And now we're seeing a new Batman, and then the Man of Steel Batman. Batman v Superman. We're going to see a new Batman. It's a bit quite soon, but I like the kind of darker and more grittier kind of approach that DC and Warner Brothers take with their superhero films compared to what Marvel are doing, which is very kind of, it's almost like all of them have the same look and same feel, and it's not kind of pushing the boundary at all. And it seems like I hated Iron Man 3. I hated that film so much. I was sitting in the cinema, so angry. I felt like I've never walked out of a film, but that was the first film I thought I really want to walk out. And Guardians of the Galaxy as well. It's like I don't understand the love for that film. There was some cringeworthy crap in that. It's just like, I don't get it. So I'm hoping Avengers, the new Avengers, Age of Ultron, can hopefully they can raise their game with that.
I actually have never. I don't think I've seen any of the Avengers movies.
Really?
I don't know, man. From what the snippets that I've seen, I'm just not really keen on the idea. I mean, I like the Avengers, the comic book itself, but I don't really care to see the movies per se. And I think it's because it's just so action packed, and they're not really focusing on the back end of like what the story is, the storylines are, and stuff like that. I'm just like, I don't care. I think I got jaded when I saw that Wolverine movie, and I was like, what did I just sit through?
Well, Origins.
Was it the one that would just pretty much focus on? Yeah, I think it was. It was just the Wolverine movie, and I was just like, "What was this?" But man, as much as I think that God knows how it would go, but I'm definitely down for a Miss Marvel movie. But the new Miss Marvel, Kamala Khan. I'm curious if they were going to do that, how it actually would pan out. But how funny would it be if her soundtrack is like all taco-core bands or Indian metal bands. I think that would be perfect. So if you're listening out there, do a Miss Marvel and have a couple of brown metalhead kids doing the background music, because that would be badass. Her giant arm getting bigger, and you hear this nerve cell playing in the background. It'd be pretty cool.
I think for mainstream audiences, they will have to start with the traditional Miss Marvel and maybe introduce the Kamala Khan, later on.
Oh yeah, with Rogue thrown in, that'd be cool. I'm always kind of wary when they do adaptations of kind of more obscure works. Like I remember 2006 movie Aeon Flux. Charlize Theron did what she could with the content, but it still sucked. which is why I'm kind of wary about that new Ghost in the Shell with Scarlett Johansson. I liked her in Under the Skin, and like I could imagine her being Motoko, but I feel somewhere along the line they're gonna miss the point, just like they missed the point with Aeon Flux.
Yeah, I mean, I've actually not seen Ghost in the Shell. It's manga is just very kind of hard to get into for me personally, but yeah, Scarlett Johansson is like are they seriously trying to say they cannot find any decent Asian actresses? Like, I mean, take the Pacific Rim, the girl who was in Pacific Rim. That's someone who could take that role easily. She was the best thing about Pacific Rim. I hated that film, but I liked her character.
Yeah, it was I hated Pacific Rim too. There were some cool parts of it, but the cool parts of it remind me more of Galactica, like the whole run the clock or something like that. It was just like that 33 episode of Galactica, and that's basically what kept me on. It wasn't its own merits. It was always how it kind of tried to throw in something else as a reference.
Yeah, I mean, Pacific Rim I was just not happy with, but yeah, comic book films I like them, but they're getting a bit repetitive, like copy and paste. Especially those have you seen the Avengers posters? The Age of Ultron? The
latest one? I think I've seen like a clip of it. I don't remember too much about it. I think it was all these like heroes in the background.
Yeah, and it's just so generic and terrible. I hope they do. I hope the film is a step up over the the original, because I didn't like the original.
While we're on it, as far as more modern adaptations, do you have a dog in the new Star Wars coming up?
Star Wars, even though I've never been a huge Star Wars nerd, because a lot of the Star Wars nerds put me off the films. It's like people talk about what's his name, Boba Fett.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, he doesn't do anything in the original films. I don't understand people's love for this guy. So, but I grew up with Star Wars as well. I love the Ewoks. How cool are those wee guys? And the new films. I mean, the trailer that came out really got me interested. I like the look of it. I like how they're introducing new characters, and even though the old ones are coming back, new characters I'm more interested in, and you just know the special effects are going to be amazing. So I'm looking forward to it, but not as probably nearer the time I'll get more excited for it.
So going back to your podcast, so do you just only, because I've seen a few episodes, are you only reviewing new movies? Are you going to do some sci-fi, miniseries and things like that, or are you just sticking to just movies? Because I know it's the Godcast.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, the plan was every month I would do a theme, separate, apart from the Gobcast, I would do these separate videos that had a theme. So for last month, it should have been Foreign February. So I was going to review foreign films, like old ones and new ones. But I just didn't have the time. For April, I want to do Animation April, so catch up with a lot of animated films I've not been able to see. But I think for now I'll just stick to new films, because I've got a monthly pass here in Glasgow where it's about £16 a month, and you can watch as many films in the cinema as you like.
Well, I'm only saying this because I know you're definitely nerds. Maybe one of your themes would definitely be just solely on Battlestar Galactica and your reviews on that. And I would love that, because I know you're definitely one to appreciate the sci-fi nerds, and it's just so much to talk about. And I know I'm pretty sure people are tired of hearing me about talking about BSG, but who cares? It's awesome.
I think on a most recent, I think one of your recent Gobcasts, you had some choice words for Neil Blomkamp trying to retcon Alien and Aliens.
Yeah. I mean, I really like Neil Blomkamp. I love District 9. Elysium was, okay. Chappie looks okay. But, I don't like why is he going back to a period of time where he wasn't part of that? He was he even born at that stage? I think he was, but was he even into studying film at that point? Who knows? So how can he come and say, okay, I want to do a sequel to this period? That's like me saying, okay, now that I'm a director, I want to do Godfather Part 2.5. It's like, who am I to do that? So he may have a great idea, and he wants to bring back Michael Biehn, and he wants to bring back Lance Henriksen, and I don't know, because I love Alien 3 personally. I think it's a great film. Alien Resurrection not so much, but I feel that directors, rather than rebooting and reimagining, they should that's taking the easy way out. How about you work hard creatively and get the existing timeline back to a level that people can say, yes, this is a good sequel, this is the franchise back on track. That's the way I feel.
If you had to say, like, you had your top 10 movies of all time, say, like, regardless, new and old, foreign, whatever, what would be your top 10?
I couldn't answer that. I can, off the top of my head, I can say, okay, when I was in college, 3 films that had a big impact on me: Donnie Darko, Old Boy, and Blair Witch Project. So that was the 3 films that I was in college. I saw them, they blew my mind.
Why Blair Witch Project?
I remember seeing the ads for it, and I thought, what is this crap? People going, oh, is it real? Is it not? It's like, what are you talking about? So I remember going to see it. I had a free day off college. I thought, okay, I'll go in, expecting it to hate it, and I watched it, and it was so good. And the ending scared the crap out of me, and I left the cinema thinking, and I just kind of like, you don't see the Blair Witch in that film. It's purely people's words, building that character in your head. So I leaving the cinema, I thought, oh, Blair Witch, she floats on the ground, and she has hair over her body, and she's wearing a shawl over her head. All these kind of little things that built the character in your mind, and I loved that. So that was, it impressed me. I went in thinking I was going to hate that film. I came out thinking it's one of the best things. And the soundtrack was probably the first time, even though there's no music in the film, the soundtrack was kind of songs and artists that inspired the story. So and that was the first time I heard Skinny Puppy. It was the first time I heard Bauhaus. Yeah. What's
your favorite Skinny Puppy? Say your top 10, your top 5 favorite Skinny Puppy songs.
Top 5? Well, the first track, like say on the Blair Witch, that was Draining Faces. Mm-hmm. It's kind of hard. It's not. Let me bring up Spotify, and I can actually read through them.
Like No Fascist Jock Itch? Come on, man. That's my top favorite. That's my favorite.
Not something I can easily remember.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So what's your top 3 favorite Ministry songs? Which is, I know there's a lot, but what's your top 3?
Top 3.
For today. It doesn't have to be forever.
For today?
For today.
Okay. Burning Inside, Hero, and Nursing Home.
Please be Flash.
I think you just broke my heart now. Jesus, built my hot rod.
I wanted Flashback to be in there.
And Stigmata, no.
Flash. Yeah, see, that's the thing. There's so many songs you can't. It's like picking your favorite child. You can't. I
even like Twitch, and we've talked about this, Tariq. Like, I even like Twitch, and I think you even said it too. Like, most Ministry fans are like, you actually like their 80s stuff. Like, what?
I love their 80s stuff.
I loved it.
That's why I love Lesson Unlearned from one of their recent ones, because it has this kind of old school vibe to it. Mm-hmm. I love that.
Even their cover of Black Betty was pretty badass.
Yeah, I remember when we were talking amongst ourselves, we were thinking of making an industrial band amongst ourselves. So I was thinking about industrial bassy band names. One name that came to mind off my end was Skinny Bobby.
But no Bobbies are skinny. They usually turn into fat aunties. I think maybe, well, that's terrible to say, but I mean, that's one of my freaking fears, to turn into a fat auntie when I get older.
Well, what about Spicy Dildo?
It has to be, something has to have biryani in it for some reason. You have to.
Yeah.
I don't know what would be possibly a good. industrial metal band name with biryani. I don't know.
Biryani Dhamaka. No, that sounds like a restaurant.
Sarin nerve gas, 50 tons of mustard gas, and a turkey farm.
I want to turn things around towards your experience with the Takwacore. That genre kind of had its time in the sun, and then it kind of had a decline. What do you think contributed to that?
Well, it's kind of hard because I was, the only Takwacore related band in Scotland anyway. So I'm not sure what happened, if people's attitudes changed or people just got older and, they kind of felt, it wasn't worth their time anymore. But and I've not read up much on it since, so it's hard for me to say. But I think it's just, some guys, some of the bands just felt that kind of labelled Takwacore or being labelled Muslim punk bands, that kind of was a kind of an insult, to their kind of creativity. So it's just about kind of growing up and,
I know in the States it was like it seemed like it was just very exploitive, like even going to the shows. I mean, being a brown girl that's wearing like spikes and shit, like, they're like, you're seen as they're just trying to buy you, and like all these constant, like, people are trying to interview you or whatever. And I tried to avoid them, and I'm not even part of the bands or anything like that, but just being part of, I guess, because your friends are playing, you're going to go support them, of course. But unfortunately, I've never seen, Tariq play live because I haven't visited Europe yet, which is one of my definite, ideas. But I mean, like, the thing was, it was with Takwacore, it was so raw, right? And we were just so happy. The underlying thing was like, we were just all happy little brown kids to meet other kids that we could relate to, right? And then there's all these people that are completely negative, who are actually, weirdly enough, other brown people that were just exploiting us. They were like, oh, we're doing a Guardian thing, or we're doing this and whatever. And you're like, well, what the fuck do I tell you? Like, we're just some college kids listening to like punk or metal. Like, why would it be different that if we went to our regular friend, like our white friends shows, as opposed to our brown friends shows? It's just a metal show. Like, why does you constantly have to, colorize it? It's the same thing they do with Afropunk as well, and the thing was, I could understand if it was another cultural, group that were exploiting us, but it was our own brown people that were exploiting us. They were like, no, we're not going to splice I was constantly, I think there's one video that I actually did, one interview, and I said, I'm not going to do this interview if my friend's not in it. And I don't, because you guys, all you do is exploit people and stuff like that, and you cut and splice, and you make us look like we're retarded and drunk and stupid, right? And they were like, yeah, we're not gonna cut your friend out. I'm like, I even said it, like, do not even put this on at all. And I interviewed with my friend who's Colombian, and they cut him, like, I think he's Colombian and Puerto Rican or something, and they cut him off in the entire video, and you could see his arm on my shoulder, but they cut him out of the shot. And every time when we were talking together, they cut all that out. So all they had was splicing of me saying, like that kind of, like, it looked like, if I didn't know me, I'd be like, oh my God, is this chick drunk? And I'm completely sober. It's just the fact that the way that they spliced it, it was so disgusting to me. I tried to write to that person, because there's a person that was they came from, I believe, Columbia University, completely wrote this horrible article, missed the whole fucking point of Takwacore. There've been many a times that I've even been to shows that they'll ask me, oh, because I know I appear to look very East Indian, right? They're like, oh, so, are you practicing Muslim? I was like, I've never been Muslim. My family is practicing Hindus, and they literally, like, look at me. They don't even say, oh, well, thanks or whatever. Nothing like that. They'll just walk the fuck away. And, like, they only want to talk to you. They'll see a chick with a hijab, right? Like, because, you're playing, your sister's going to come see you. Your cousin's going to come see you, regardless if they like the music or not. That's just how our culture is. You're going to support each other, right? That was really the message. Somehow, I don't know how, we've just let all that all these negative people infiltrate the culture and fuck it up. I'm not saying that people in Takwacore, the scene itself, didn't fuck up too, because, like, we're humans. People are gonna just, end up with whatever numerous amounts of bullshit, right? And we grow up and things like that. But I don't know how, the media was this is like a prime example of how media fucks everything up.
There was that hype machine around it. And
right.
I wasn't active as a journalist at that time, but if I were, I probably would have been a bit more understanding about the situation going on.
It's still a bitter thing.
It's a shame that they
talk
weren't. I'm kind of ashamed that they weren't more understanding what was going on, and that they just hyped it up to the point. And they did it with
a bitter taste in your mouth to say Taco Core.
Yeah.
I try to remember the positive things, but Taco Core, the word itself, just leaves a bitter taste in a lot of people's mouths, and people just want to completely avoid that word because it's been so exploited, and it's seen as such a, oh, look, there's brown kids and they listen to metal and they're possible Satanists. Like, what the hell is wrong?
I saw the similar process in another core genre, a nerdcore, which is like basically nerds rapping about Star Wars and the like. A lot of hype around that, and just like Taco Core, had a rise, had a fall, and then basically everyone that was involved in it is trying to pick up the pieces.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, it's like some of us are still, I guess for the most part, the Taco Core scene, the people that were, we're still like little brown family. I don't think we consider each other Taco Core family. I think it's just like because we've grown together, that we were in our early 20s. Now all of us are in our, like the ones that I grew around with we're like in our 30s, late 30s, that kind of stuff. So, people are getting married and having kids and, getting jobs and like not being in bands and that kind of stuff. So, but I think like for now, there's like the newer, like it's nice to see like, Indonesian kids still doing Taco Core and, it's still raw for them, and, hearing about kids, and like even I heard about like, a couple of years back, like a couple of Trinidadian kids were contacting me, hey, have you heard about Taco Core? Because they're Muslims, they were Muslim kids. They heard about Muslim punk or Muslim metal, and they got excited. And then, when they realized there's no bands really doing it anymore because it was exploited by the media, it's nice to see that the people are taking back what Taco Core means, and like, and creating music and saying, well, yeah, we're not really Muslim or whatever, but we're just brown kids making music. The same thing could be said for Krishna Core, or in like now India has like this huge metal scene. I'm pretty sure it was always big, but like now it's getting more publicity with, the internet and things like that. I mean, even just an online friend was just showing me about Gutslit. So that was pretty interesting. I think that, when we look at it as a more broader perspective, I think that we need to just remind ourselves that we have to like not let the media infiltrate us. And we can easily say that the people in Taco Core fucked it up. And what do you expect? We're kids. We didn't know. We didn't know that we were going to be exploited. You didn't think that people that look like possibly your cousins was going to, pretty much betray you in the media. And then that was such a big learning experience that, fuck, you can't even trust your own, like, you know what I mean? Like, what the fuck? Like, you know what I mean? And and it was so vivid. It was so clear that they didn't want to talk to anybody who was remotely not even brown. There was not only brown kids at the fucking shows, but God forbid there was one hijabi girl, like they would not leave her the fuck alone. They would not leave me the fuck alone, let alone because I was a brown chick in a spike collar, so God forbid there was a hijabi chick with like a band, like an Iron Maiden patch on her back. They wouldn't leave her the fuck alone. But on positive notes, I mean, there's so many things that happened that was positive because of Taco Core. I mean, Mike's books are amazing. I mean, many people read them, and whatever ideas you have about them, because people have their when religion and fiction and people's opinions get mushed together, it's always such a battle. You know what I mean? But there's so many positive things that we can say about Taco Core because, one, we all met each other through that same medium. Two, there's so many bands like, Tariq's band that came out, and we were able to like all just pretty much find each other. And it was such a great catalyst for that. And that's what I'm appreciative for. And thirdly, like whether or not we want to agree, I mean, Taco Core was pretty much branching out for all these other groups that we had, whether it be on Zanga or LiveJournal. And then now on Facebook, there's like Daisy Punks,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, just like you just mentioned there that, we all kind of met each other and, mainly on like MySpace and places like that. But even now on Facebook here, I've got there's people I've met through Taquacore, and I try to think, sometimes I think to myself, if I had not met these people, over the past few years, what would my life have been like? This is like, someone like yourself, Paddy, and there's people like Daniela and Marvin and all these people that I consider my like proper friends. Friends that I prefer over like people I've met in here in Glasgow and Scotland over the years. So I'm kind of very happy that I met all you guys. So it's
I feel like you're like my international family that I keep in contact with via Skype and like Google Hangouts and all this fun stuff. Like every so often, we can keep in contact. But again, like I was saying, there's just always this bitter taste. But on a positive note, we should always definitely remember that there was so many positivity. Like how many people can say that, we were able to find people that are so similar to us, not only musically, culturally, just in general. Like we could actually have a place that one of the funniest things that we were able to do was like bitch about how we're not like, because our parents are brown, we couldn't hang out till 4:00 in the fucking morning to a metal show. You know what I mean? Like, and it was just such a like a linear thing. We're just like, oh, I feel the fucking struggle. You know what I mean? Like it was cool. It was cool to like have someone to understand and like a group, not even just one, just so many. And we were just like, it felt like a good support group, and that's how we became family. And I really appreciate that, if anything. And the cool thing with the scene, whether the documentaries are done or the movies and stuff like that, it's just things to kind of look back on and be nostalgic. I mean, we're going to all be grannies and grandpas one day and be like, well, at least it was something cool that we were younger. We started some kind of movement, but it didn't move anywhere, but, it was some kind of movement.
Yeah, and you may end up with stuff like PIL, which to me, it was 100% better than Sex Pistols ever was.
I've never kind of been into Sex Pistols, that kind of British... I was always more into American punk than British punk, which is kind of weird.
All right.
I just want to say a lot of the kind of negativity on Taquacore and like the exploitation, this and that. That's something, and like fortunately, I never got to experience that because I didn't realise all that was going on. So I hear it from Paddy, I hear it from some of the people in the DPX group, so DC Punks group. So yeah, it's kind of hard. It's kind of heartbreaking in a way because it was a good time in my life.
But that's not only limited to Taquacore. I mean, just people in general. They're going to be good and bad. I mean, I'm pretty positive as it is, and so are you. And I mean, we're still able to say Taquacore without going, like throwing up a little bit in our mouth. I mean, it was part of time that we were just like, oh God, like I don't want to be fucking affiliated with that shit at all. But at the end of the day, I look at a broader picture again, and going back to what we said, like there are really cool people. I mean, people were writing their fucking doctoral theses and stuff. Like it was a big deal for other people. I guess we didn't realize how much of a big fucking deal it was, but I guess a lot of people were coming out. I mean, coming out of the woodworks. I wouldn't say coming out the closet, because some people did actually have the courage to come out the closet, because of their sex. Their parents were just so strict, and they were able to talk about their sexuality open because there were more people like them, and they felt like, okay, well, we're brown and you can understand my struggle, whether you be, a little different. We were just the weird kids. It's just like you're the artsy kids in high school. You're all going to find a way how to find each other. And it was just so nice to kind of actually have some type of catalyst, which was, fortunately for us, MySpace, for us to find each other. And weirdly enough, we were all very close to each other in proximity, whether it be Boston, New York, that kind of stuff. And we all just kind of found each other, and more people opened their minds up to say, well, yeah, I do like metal, or yeah, I like punk, and, come to a punk show. But I mean, how many of us would say, well, before Taquacore, before whatever, we were like the darkest kid in the mosh pit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
kind of feel sad for the new generation because nowadays all they have to look forward to is look up to is Zayn fucking Malik.
Don't say that. That's horrible. That's like when your grandpa says, "I don't know what you guys listen to." No, there are great bands. I mean, I'm just not I don't really get it, obviously. Like, you get to a certain point, like, I don't know. But, music regurgitates the same thing. They recycle. So it's only a matter of time that Amy's hair metal comes back, like, maybe.
Oh, God. Please, no.
Hey, don't knock Motley Crue. Hey.
The Darkness had their time in the sun. I don't know if they're still around.
And maybe thrash might make a comeback, like, who knows? Although, like, Megadeth can never get their shit together to stay together, but you never know. I don't know.
I think Biohazard's still around, or Anthrax, one of those.
Yeah, well, I think they'll always be around.
Yeah, they're everywhere, like Anthrax and the like. They're always touring. So.
You ever think that if like there wasn't so much negative media, that Tacocore would be bigger than it was and bigger than it is now, and like maybe they would have like a Tacocore final tour like in a couple of years. Like we're all old and like we're in our walkers and we're just like singing along with like Shaw, like Suicide Bomb the Gap or some dumbass shit. And you're just like, oh God, could you imagine?
Yeah. Well, I think friend of the show. Hassan, he actually had something to say about that, how about we didn't really have a uniform sound, and it was mostly about the identity. And,
but how amazing was that?
Yeah, it was great. But, I think, as Tariq said, we kind of, some of us grew up, and some of us kind of moved on from that. As far as, nerdcore and tacocore, it's kind of your options are limited to talking about, nerd stuff or brown stuff. And once that well runs dry, there's not much else to go.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I kind of mentioned to Shah Jahan, I think the last week I said, he posted something about the Chapel Hill murders, and I was like, get the Kaminas writing some angry songs, and he says, yeah, don't worry, we'll. So, I'm interested in seeing what the Kaminas do, whether it's political or it's just kind of laid back kind of indie rock, or see what Marwin's up to with Altora doing his soundtracks and things like that. So these guys are still around. They're still doing their thing. So it's good to see them do whatever they put out. I just hate there's nothing. I hate kind of the kind of way the music industry is now. It's like there's no. There used to be the mainstream, you had the middle ground, you had the underground, and you don't kind of get that sense anymore. It's all X Factor, it's all, celebrity news. Does it feel the way for you guys as well? Do you?
Yeah, I was in that. I was a freelance writer and I covered pop music, and yeah, I kind of felt that it was more about the personalities than it was about the music. I tried to cover the music, but eventually I had to create my own, personality to keep up with it.
I mean, but we live in the culture of like reality television stars and people, and they keep saying this, like, we live in the society of people being famous for doing fucking nothing. So what do you expect? Oh, yeah. It's going to trickle down to our music. But there's only so much so that can happen. People get tired of shit. It's trends. It's just like crop tops. Next month it's going to be something else. Yeah. And hopefully in a couple of months you'll get some decent freaking music, There are always going to be these local bands that do amazing shit. I mean, like, some of the best local New York City bands are thrash metal bands that I love, and some couple of industrial bands and things like that. So people say that there's certain subgenres of music that are dead, but there's a lot of local bands that are still doing their shit, and the cool thing is you don't have to be signed or, go on a huge tour. You could just send your stuff out, put it on the internet, promote it on whatever social mediums that you choose to. And I mean, you just got to target those types of people, target some positive people. And like, if your music is good, people are going to want you. They're going to be like, hey, come to our neighboring state, or, hey, if you're going to fly to Europe, we got a spot for you or something, which is the great thing. People are pretty much have more control of their creative outlets and their, how they want to give it to the people,
remember I remember I saw a recent episode of South Park where it was like I think one of the kids had started a commentary show, and I think one of the lines that kind of made me sad for a bit was when the guy said commentary is the content nowadays. And I've been in that commentary business for a while, and I was wondering, Tariq, you're also kind of a commenter. How do you kind of keep yourself above the level, like making your own content?
Well, I mean, whatever influences I had, that kind of shaped my music. That was like 2004, 2005, and then I just started creating, and you get to a certain point where you're not paying attention to whatever's out there now, so you don't I don't bother with that. I make music based on, what am I seeing, in the world, how does it affect me, and then how do I output that, how do I express myself about that through music. So it's usually as political things, and that's, like I said, like I mentioned earlier, all I see in mainstream is X Factor and celebrities and Kim Kardashian's ass or whatever. So it's like, if there's nothing there, for me to kind of be influenced. There's nothing there for me to make my react to when it comes to music. So sticking to the same the same influences, nothing's really changed. Does that make sense?
Yeah, certainly does. Right.
So is it maybe I just kind of live in my own little bubble, Maybe that's all it is.
Don't we all?
Yeah. Well, it's a good place to be,
Yeah, you get to a certain age where you've narrowed down what your feelings are to certain things. What to ignore. What makes you feel good. What makes you feel angry. So it's been narrowed down now.
Yeah. Soon enough, we're going to be in that get off my lawn mode.
Exactly.
As if we're not already. I mean, we sound like these grumpy old people.
Get off my lawn, Zayn Malik.
What I don't like is...
I don't even know who he is.
No, he's the guy from One Direction.
What is it? Is that a pop band or something?
Yeah, pop band.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, my niece loves that band. I had to get her tickets for their show in Glasgow later this year.
Right.
And she's like... I said, what if they split up before you get to see them? You know what I mean? It's like, you never know. And I said to her, they will split up one day. And she's like, no, they won't. And I was like, of course, that's a boy band. That's all they do. And it's like, young kids these days are they're just repeating themselves. You talk about get off my lawn. I'm on that attitude already. It's like these kind of millennials millennial kids are just brainwashed.
Yeah, I was inundated in that back when I reviewed pop music. I'd gone to the shows with Kesha and Katy Perry and Rihanna. And there's a lot of group thinking there. Like, it's like, I think one of the things with I saw Kesha, she's talking about, be yourself, be an individual. Everybody's dressed the same.
Exactly. And Katy Perry, I listen to her, when I've ever kind of managed to hear what she sounds like. Her music sounds like it's made for TV commercials rather than it's actual pop music. It's like, at least back in the 80s pop music, you could hear it. There's something to it. It was big. It was it was ambitious. It was kind of epic sounding. This Katy Perry and Lady Gaga, it's like they're making music for 30-second TV ads. I don't see how that's music. It's not. You don't get bands with balls anymore. That's so. Anytime I kind of want to be influenced, not influenced, but if I want to feel angry and determined, I just watch pop music today, and I get so angry, I go out and I create angry music.
Oh yeah.
So a lot of the kind of stuff I'm working on just now is basically because I watched Justin Bieber.
I noticed that a lot of these pop groups, I think they also kind of they tried to commodify rebellion, and then you see people like Pussy Riot in Russia, and it's like, no, you're not on the level. Like, go up against dictatorship and then tell me that you're a rebel.
I quite liked that video they did.
Yeah, the one with I Can't Breathe or something like that.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, they've certainly improved their craft. Like the first couple of years, I thought it was like, oh my god, they sound like shit. But now, now they sound a lot better. Like I just saw House of Cards where they were guest stars.
I was just about to say that they were guest stars, and it was such a great episode. I just saw it. It was really cool.
They certainly sound a lot better nowadays, and I'd get behind them now.
Yeah, so I mean that's what music should be. They're kind of political. They're they're someone said that they weren't sure about them using that phrase "I can't breathe," but it was a tribute to that guy. So that guy who died at being choked. So it's something someone's saying something in their music. That's what music should be. Where you've actually got something to say rather than we're pretty and we're cool and this and that. It's like it's nothing there.
So, where would your fans be able to follow your work these days?
Oh yeah, let's see. So if you want, you can always contact me and follow me on Twitter. It's just @FilmGob. That's where I usually use that account for, following film news and commenting on film news, just engaging with other bloggers and YouTubers who are into the same kind of film, business. You can follow me @citizen_vex. So that's more from my music. So that's for more kind of political and music related issues. And I mean, with my music, SoundCloud is probably the best place, and there's also Last FM. That website is still there, so you've got a lot of my stuff is still there. So you can find my music on those two sites, and mainly YouTube is the place I'm kind of spending most of my time. So I spend a lot of time watching YouTube as well. There's a lot of good channels there, good content that I'd even use my TiVo service anymore. I'm planning to cancel it, later on this year, because there's nothing. It's such a distraction. TV is just useless. So I prefer YouTube. It's much more interesting, and I'm creating my own content as well. So I spend a lot of time there.
All right. Well, that's Tariq Sheikh of Citizen Vex and the FilmGob podcast. Thanks for taking the time to speak with us. It's probably late out there in Glasgow.
No, it's great. I've actually enjoyed myself. So thanks for inviting me.
Always a pleasure, Vexy. Always a
pleasure. Thank you, Paddy.
All right, thanks a lot.
Thank you, Sharky.
And that was Tariq Sheikh of Citizen Vex and the FilmGob podcast. For more of ALTbrown, you can find us on altbrown.tumblr.com and Facebook /AltBrownCast. Thanks for listening.